All right. Hello, hello, hello. So today we are talking about who is God smiting today, how to avoid the wrath of God, and how to create a deeper connection to your source or to strengthen your source connection. So, big topic, a really big topic. Thank you for being here and diving in with me. I wasn't sure I was actually going to talk about this, so I have my notes because it's a huge topic. So who is God smiting today? And it seems like it's always somebody. There's always somebody that's going to suffer the wrath of God. So just spend the next few minutes with me. We're going to dive into this topic. I'm sure it'll be a couple of videos, and you are going to hear some common concepts in Christianity, and we're going to dissect this and go through it together. So you're going to walk away understanding it better, understanding how this happens, and then also understanding like the true nature of God and getting your own clarity and your own truth and closer to the truth. I would hope. We're going to dive in. There's a huge, huge topic to cover with this. So hi, I'm Sherry Hemstreet of thesherryhemstreet.com. And if you don't know me, so I've been having these experiences with God since I was a very young girl. God woke me up when I was just a young girl, sat on my bed, woke me up one night, and we had a discussion. And then I continued to have these very supernatural experiences with God. I will cover that one day. I know the Bible says you can't see the face of God, but look, I will share it all with you. And so I have communication with God just like I'm communicating with you right now, right? Like I hear him just like you can hear me. And so this is something that I talk a lot about and teach a lot about. So if you're interested in this, then by all means go ahead and, make sure you tune in for more content like this. If you want more content like this, then just drop "Give me more" below and we will get you access to more complimentary content that dives into this topic amongst others just like this. Lots of things to uncover there. So I've had a deep relationship with God my entire life, and he's taught me many, many, many things since that first experience I had with him. And so I share those, I talk about them. I help others to find their own relationship and deepen their own connection to their God, their source of all that is, the infinite, the creator. And so if this is content that interests you, for sure, drop "Give me more" below, and somebody, either me or someone on my team, will reach out. And I just want to dive into why this is so important to me, because I've been sitting on the sidelines for so long, watching what has been going on. We're like entering a time of revival with God, where many people are called back, and a time where many people are just now finding that they want that relationship with God. And I'm seeing it happen all across the globe, across all different religions, and in many different ways. And so it's a bigger movement than I think that we even understand at this moment, but I am hoping that it becomes more clear. So today I saw a post that started this entire thing. And it was a post between a pretty well-known Muslim and a Christian who is diving into and exploring Jewish tradition and the Torah and Judaism as a whole, I suppose. I don't have much content on that. I don't have much background, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But the context and content of the conversation that was taking place is more important, right? I found it interesting that this was coming from two different perspectives, because that's really important. The perspectives that we hold and that we enter a conversation are really, really important. They're going to be rooted in our own beliefs and what we believe to be true and want to be true and what we found, and our level of devotion to our own depth of knowing and understanding. So if I had to guess, this is one of the bigger issues, right? Because what we're talking about here isn't really about who God is smiting, right? What we're really talking about is a level of, some would say, hypocrisy, some would say biblical truth, some would say prophecy, right? This can fall under so many different terms and so many different like concepts there. And so with that, um, I really I feel like it's so hard to say, right? I feel like it's a really big topic and it deserves a whole lot. So with that being said, like having different perspectives is important, right? And understanding where people are coming from. And there can only be one truth. And, everyone's concept of truth is going to be different at a different level or a different position or a different perspective. So at the highest level, there can only be one truth, right? Like gravity is true. Um, the earth is either round or flat. There can't be both, right? And so we approach this from the perspective that we know and understand. And with that being said, like I'm not here to say anyone is wrong and I'm not here to say anyone is right. I'm certainly not that person to do so, but I am here to offer the perspective that I understand through my communications with God and my relationship with God and to help you find your own. So with that being said, there is a big I don't want to call it a problem, but like there is a reason that there are a lot of people that are upset with Christianity, or there's a lot of people who are upset with Christians in general because, it's very judgmental these days. It's very rooted in dogma. I'm not sure why I'm like so warm. This is disturbing. But anyway, it's very rooted in dogma. And aside from all of that, it's not the love of God that I know. And so that to me makes it a very important topic because the God that I know is truly love, just amazing. And it's no surprise that the Bible has been used many, many ways over to distort the truth, distort the word of God, and to further anyone's agenda. Um, and and there's a lot to be said for that, right? Like there's a lot that's a whole topic in itself, a whole huge topic in itself. So the reason that this is so important to me is because of love, right? Like that's it. It's not because anyone is going to be right and anyone is going to be wrong. It's because of the love of God that I have. It's because of love in general. And when you have love in abundance because of your own connection to God, because of your own understanding of God, because of your own knowledge of God, all of this becomes much easier to understand and discern. So that's really my hope for all of this. So I do have lots of notes and I am going to be looking at them quite extensively. So whether you are Jewish or Christian or Muslim, agnostic, atheist, Greek or Orthodox, anything, right? I hope that you walk away with a greater understanding and a perspective and an open mind and an open heart. So the things that I'm going to talk about aren't necessarily easy, and they can be emotionally triggering or jarring to what you know, what you've been taught, and what you believe. And in my opinion, that's okay, because if we do not have things brought to us for us to consider, then we are just living blindly, right? Like we're living blindly just as we are, and there's no growth in that, and there's no expansion in that, and that in itself can be very stagnating, and it doesn't typically lead to where people want to be. But not everyone is always ready to make those big steps and accept new beliefs. I think accepting new beliefs is probably the last thing on anyone's mind. And so that's really not the aim of this. It's the discussion around it, because there's always, and you've seen this everywhere. Like, I wish I could remember the things that I've seen online, like very specifically, but I saw something a while ago that, oh, I'm going to say it. It was when North Carolina suffered from Hurricane Helene. Absolutely devastating, catastrophic. Just as somebody who lives in New Orleans, has been through Katrina and Rita and other, I was here for the flood of 96. I've been in those devastating moments, and you just can't even unless you've been there. And my heart just broke what was happening to these people. And I go online, and what do I see? I see, oh God, this was so crushing. I see people saying, like, that's what they get for voting for, I guess they voted Republican. I'm going to say that's what it was. But I went online and I saw people saying these comments like, that's what they get for voting for Trump, or that's what they get for being a Republican, or that's this, or that's that. And they're like, God this and God that. And people using God as the reason that others suffer is absolutely, in my opinion, not okay. It breaks my heart, because when that happens, that just means that people really aren't getting to know God, and people don't know God, and they're speaking from their own space of probably ego, but I'm not going to judge that. Like, I don't know. I can't say. But I believe that they're speaking from their own space of righteousness, right? Because their leaders have taught them this, or their leaders have exemplified this and demonstrated this and led with this, and this is the behavior that they think is okay. And look, I've been in churches where that was okay. It's like, the gay people are going to hell and dying. There's no hell, and you don't die. And gay people are just, they are okay. They are just like you and me. They have blood and kidneys and guts and feelings. So, and I'm using that as like an example, not how I feel. But it's always something, right? Like gay people or LGBTQ. I can't say all of them. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm really bad at all. But the LGBTQ community. Anyway, we know the community I'm speaking about. So this is going so poorly, I think. But that's okay. My heart is in the right space. So I'm okay with it. We're going to roll with it. So like, but it's always God is smiting somebody, right? Like, and they get this from the Bible, right? From the Old Testament. God will smite you. God will do this to your children. God will do that to your children. And like, okay, I wasn't there when the Old Testament was written. I wasn't there to know who wrote it and what they said to God and what God said to them. Just like nobody is there when I talk to God necessarily and he tells me things or I ask him things. So like I take it with a grain of salt and an understanding. And this is really important because it's going to lead to like a bigger point that I have down the road here. So it's good. We're on track. Everything is going good. I sound like I'm all over the place because it's a big topic, and I am. But we're going to cover it over a couple days. I think this is going to be more than one video. So, but there's always some group coming out saying this, right? So like now we have a lot of problems with the West Bank and Israel, and, like children are dying, and that is not okay. People are starving, and that is not okay. And neither is anything that is going on, right? And so people are like, oh, these are God's chosen people. They get to do what they want. No. That is not how that works. And, just like the Israeli people didn't do anything, that makes them God's chosen people and means that they have more authority to do this, just like the Palestinians didn't do anything that makes them less than God's people, right? The very important thing here is that every person is a product and a piece and a part of God. And that right there is the most important thing, And so I was looking at all of the responses on this post, and it was pretty interesting and pretty eye-opening, because there was a lot of people that were like using the whole God smiting thing. And that's heartbreaking, because God is love. God is not wrath, right? And so it doesn't sit right with me. And I'm sure there are many of you that it doesn't sit right. There's this like group of people out there that really understand that love is the higher message, that love is the higher frequency, that love is the higher truth, that love is God and God is love. And for people to say that this is how God behaves would be completely out of line with truth, because if God is love, then that would be pure love. And that's not. And God is pure love in every form, in just every essence of the word, the meaning, the feeling, right? And so when I see this and I see that there's groups forming or people coming out and they're blaming the misfortune and the demise of another group of people on the wrath of God, it really causes me concern because that's a lot of misunderstanding. And to have that continue to be spread as gospel, as Christianity, as truth is, well, it's upsetting, right? Like, and it doesn't feel good. And to the people who see through that, it doesn't feel good. So if you are watching this and you agree with me, then like you're very like validated in this. And I'm sure you feel good that somebody else is saying this. I would love to see other people saying this with me, but somebody has to speak about it first. And so here I am. And so the thing that the wrath of God, I put up a post one time saying that God is not judgment, he's love. And I had very, very many people come on and tell me how wrong I was. And they quoted no less than hundreds of scriptures. And I'm sure that many people think I'm going to hell and I am the devil incarnate or Satan incarnate. I might be the beast. I don't know. There was quite a few interesting comments about it. But all that told me is that the people who came on don't know my God the way I know God, don't know God the way I know God, not just my God, but God in general, the way I know God. And also it told me that there are still many leaders out there who are not rising up to the level that they have been called. And it also tells me that there are a lot of people out there who are relying on their relationship with God through their leaders. So it's a secondhand relationship. And that tells me there's a lot of hurting people. And that tells me there's a lot of unhappy people. And that tells me there's a lot of lost people and a lot of people who are stuck and who are yearning for more and who are hungry for more and who are wanting and desiring more and to understand their own relationship with God and to have clarity and answers that they deserve and that it's just not getting to them. So I hope that this video does. So talking about the wrath of God is a big topic because and look, I absolutely believe in finding God in the Bible, but there's caveats like everything else, right? And so in the Old Testament, there is so much wrath and death and destruction, but we can't throw it out and we can't ignore it all. And it's not any less relevant than the New Testament, but at the same time, the bigger thing here is that what I'm seeing is that people are diving into the Bible and to their relationship with God through a logical mind. You cannot know God through a logical mind. It's a relationship. If I know you in real life, if I know you in internet life, if I know you in any capacity, or if you know somebody in a certain capacity, you don't logically know them. You don't consider that relationship only through your mind. In fact, your mind is one of the last ways that you consider that relationship. And we could just all thank God for dropping in here right now and making this so much easier and so much more peaceful now that I have calmed down. So we don't consider relationships logically, right? Like, sure, we might be like, oh, it makes sense for me to be friends with this person. We have a lot of the same interests. We like the same things. That's logical. And we might logically assimilate the information or conversations that we have with them. But that relationship is not a relationship solely of the mind. That relationship is a relationship of emotions. Relationships are relationships of emotions. When you fell in love with your partner, you did not go, oh, well, this makes sense. He's 6 feet tall. He has muscles. He can provide. Yes, I will release my feelings and have all of these good feelings come out of me. No, all of this chemistry, right? We put it into chemistry happens as you're in a relationship and you're processing this relationship through your feelings, your emotions, your body, your sensory systems, right? It doesn't happen logically. And what I see is people processing the relationship of God logically. And that's the only relationship that is probably processed logically. It's all processed logically and through dogma and through rules and regulations and do and don't do, right? And that's not a relationship of love. That's probably closer to a relationship of bondage, of dominion, of power. And that's not the God I know, right? So when we look at the wrath of God and we look at how people are using this, it simply tells me that these people know God very logically, very analytically, very limitedly. Because to know God, you have to know God with your heart. And you can find him in the Bible everywhere, but you can't read the Bible logically. Like, of course you can. You have to read the Bible. You have to actually dive into it and read it and process the words. But when you read the Bible, you are entering into a relationship with God. And to do that, you have to read the Bible with your heart, not your head. And when you are reading the Bible with your heart and not your head, you become closer to God. You know God better. You know and understand God in a different way. It processes differently. And what I see is far too many people getting caught up in the logical, how do I compartmentalize this? How do I understand this at the highest level of logic, of analytical thinking, of understanding? And that becomes the first way that they know God. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. If that is your first way to know God, that's wonderful. I would urge you to move out of your mind and into your heart, into your body, into your sensory system. Because when you do this, you can open up to God and you can also receive from God and know God and experience God differently. If you are receiving God and knowing God and experiencing God only through your logic and your mind, then you are going to be limited in how well you know God and how you feel about your relationship with him, or Christianity if you're Christian, or if you consider yourself to be spiritual, or whatever it is, right? That's not really the point. Let's not get stuck on the points that aren't the point. So the wrath of God, and we're going to dive into this in another video because it is valid, but it's not valid the way people think, right? So the wrath of God isn't quite the wrath of God that you think it is. So that's the first thing. But it really begins with knowing God and understanding God and having a relationship with God that isn't based in your head, that isn't based in logical analysis or your mindset or just your mind. It's having a relationship out of your heart. And when you open your heart to what is possible and you start to understand and find God through your heart, through your sensory system, through your emotions, and you open up fully and completely, then you can have a different experience with God. It might happen right away and it might take time. It just depends. And some of us are very limited that way. Some of us are very cut off emotionally. We have trauma. Look, there have been a bajillion pastors and leaders and church leaders and Christians who have hurt people. And for that, I'm very sorry. That was not God. That was not a representation of God. That is somebody who's gotten away from the truth and from love. And when that happens, people get hurt. And when that happens, egos get involved. And when that happens, things go awry. And all of a sudden, you're getting smited and the world is ending. And if you've fallen on tough times, it is because of that. And that's simply not true. So what happens is when people, this is the crux, we're getting into a good point. When people know God logically, only when they have a limitation of only knowing God logically, they get into cognitive bias. And when you get into cognitive bias, we all do this. We all exist in our own cognitive bias, and we operate from cognitive bias. And it takes work to step out of it and to be able to understand and perceive different perspectives and possibilities. But we get into cognitive bias when we then can justify what we believe, which is the wrath of God and someone having demise and unfortune or misfortune, and saying, well, they're just not godly enough. They're not following God. They're not doing this. They're this, or they're this person, right? So what we're really doing is self-serving the ego and continuing to create a construct that is limited at the very best and doesn't serve us, and it will keep us where we are. So when we have a limited relationship with God through our logic, in comes cognitive bias. So I could pick up the Bible. I did not bring my Bible in here. I could pick up the Bible and I could make anything suit my needs because of my cognitive bias. My mind, your mind, is going to return to us exactly what we believe, what we think, what we know and expect to be true. And especially the more experience we have with this, the more cognitive bias, the more belief that we have present. We are belief-seeking humans and belief-forward humans. So we want to find the belief, we want to stand on it, and we want to stay there because that is safe. And that's how we operate in safety. So every time we find a belief or we stand on a belief, our longest standing belief, that is going to be truth for us. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth, right? It is a truth, and there are many truths, but it doesn't mean it is the truth. And as you go through this experience on this planet and your relationship with God, you're going to unlock more truth, which unlocks more power, which unlocks more expression, which unlocks more truth and power and expression. It's a very upward cycle. And so what happens is people get caught in cognitive bias. They read the Bible with their mind, with their head, logically, and they go, okay, and then they apply that to situations because they know that to be the truth. And then that becomes their cognitive bias, which is their own echo chamber. And so they believe that and they see that, and their mind is constantly reinforcing that and justifying it and saying, hey, look, you don't want to do this because those people ended up this way. And you don't want to do this because these people ended up this way. And you don't want to do it because these people ended up this way. Everyone's going to end up some way, right? And so this is how your mind keeps you trapped. And this is how we stay stuck. And this is how we don't expand. And this is how we aren't able to actually expand into our greatest version of ourselves and have the most intimate and in-depth relationship with God. The further away you are from truth, the less God you have in your life. So if you are operating in a high cognitive bias, that indicates that you are having a high cognitive relationship that is purely cognitive, probably based in logic with God and with religion and with judgment, what's right, what's wrong, what can and can't be done. And there's a lot of limitation in that. And that's going to upset a lot of people in Christianity and in the Bible. And it applies to all religions. Really, it does, because we get caught up in what we can and can't do and what is possible. And that's a whole nother topic that I'm going to cover, not even this week, like that's way down the road. But the fact of the matter is that the more we are in our own mind, logic, and cognitive processes, the less we are living and the less we can discern truth, because this is only like 10% of, even if 10%, I really suck at math, but like this mind is a very small part of our entire being, which is a small part of our entire energy, which is a small part of our entire soul, which is a small part of our entire expansiveness and truth and our identity as a whole and our energy and who we are. And it's limited because that is the 3D physical human reality of us. And we too are multi-dimensional. The Trinity, just like God. We are with God, we are of God, and we are human, having God within. And I think that that is probably the most important part of this, is that the first step in understanding this is to seek God with more than your head. Seek him with your heart. Yes, I called him a him. Sometimes I'll call him a her. All kinds of fun things there. But when we are looking for God outside of our head, we're going to find a much bigger experience. right? So that is the first way to deepen your source connection and to understand really where people are coming from so that you can love them anyway, which was the whole point of this. If you remember, yay, I did it. We're wrapping it all around, coming right back to where we were, closing that loop, because this is about love and because God is love. I'm hoping that when you see this and when you see someone else fighting online, you don't go in, if you can manage it, don't go in and go, oh, this person's right and that person's wrong. Just go, you know what? Neither one of these people are operating at their full potential of love. And I just wish the best for them, right? Like, I just want the most love for them. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Both of these people online are great. I've had interactions with both of them personally. I pay one of them. I'm like in his thing. The other one is just, she's just a wonderful, lovely, very open, very vulnerable human that I just love that. I love that she is online and so open, and it's just a breath of fresh air. They're both amazing individuals, just amazing people in their own right. And they're both right for where they are and their relationship with where they are. And I don't know anything more than to say, like, of course they're right. And of course they're passionate. And of course everything means so much to them. And I hope that in each way, their love expands. And the flip side of it is that their love has expanded. It has expanded in a way that is particular to this, right? So each interaction brings us into a fuller space of love if we allow it. And I truly believe these individuals have allowed it. But also I see where they're still butting heads, and that's tough, right? It's tough to see because they're so amazing. And I want everyone to get this. I really do. Not just for me, like, not just to make the world a better place, although it would, and just not to make more interesting conversations for me, although that would too, and I would love that. But it's really where we're going. It really comes down to love. When we open our hearts, we get out of the space of having that interaction cognitively, and we move into a space of having it from a heart space, from the communion of God, from the knowledge and wisdom of being in a deeply intimate and personal, emotional relationship with Creator. And that is what it is about. It's about being able to come up to a higher level of love. It's about understanding and seeing the truth for what it is. When we come across this, people are finding their own way on their own journey. And I will never judge that. I can never judge where someone is on their journey. I can never even understand what their purpose is and why they're here. But I do know that interaction today helped so many people. And also that interaction today kept so many people stuck in their dogma, although they had the opportunity to move to a higher space of love. And so the fact that these two people are willing to put themselves out there and do that is just phenomenally incredible. And so for you and me, I hope that we are able to open our hearts to even greater love and even greater understanding and knowledge of God and understanding of the truth of God. And that we can extend that to others when maybe they don't understand our way or see our way, or we disagree, or we see Christians that are struggling to be Christian. And that's a tough one. That is a tough one. And I'm going to tackle that and many more tomorrow and the day after that. So from here, we're going to look at the spectrum of diving deeper into this, what it really means to have the wrath of God, where it came from, how it shows up in the Bible, how people are misinterpreting or applying their own interpretation through logic and not their heart. And I'm going to guide you through that process. I hope that you enjoy it. If you have enjoyed this and you know somebody that would benefit from it or love this, I would love for you to share it. I would love for others to join the conversation with me. It would mean so much. And so I hope you join me for the next one. And I can't wait to talk more about my connection with God and my understanding. And I would love to hear what your thoughts are here. And they don't have to agree with me. That's okay, right? Like, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more content like this and complimentary access, go ahead and give me more below, and we will get that to you. I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much. I'm Sherry Hemstreet. And remember, you are loved and you are loved.